All right, what's up, Panther Nation? This is your guy, Big Brother A. I'm here with Carolina Frat House Podcast, and I took some time, but I wanted to go over our NFL Draft and grade our picks and review each of them individually, and then just give some insight over how these picks are going to help our team and what we're looking at and just other things. But before we get into that, man, guys, hope you had a good weekend. I was out just enjoying time with my friends and my wife, and just having fun. And that's it took a little while before I got to this review, but you know, everybody make sure to just have to take time to yourselves. That's something I just wanted to put out there before we get in this. But let's get into the NFL draft. All of the Carolina Panther picks. Now, all right. So with our very first pick, right, we picked Monroe Freeland, tackle from Georgia. All right. And it's sort of not shocking, but nice pick. I actually was going to put him in one of my winning scenarios just because of his relative athletic score was so high. His score is number 2 since 1987. All right, the only tackle that has a higher RAS score than him is Taylor Lewan, okay, that played with the Titans. So this guy, basically, if you want a left tackle, this is who you want physically. All right, and he's young. He's 21, still growing into developing, still growing. Very, very good pick. All right, so we went with him. Then the second round, we traded up 2 picks to get Lee Hunter. All right, D tackle. All right, very large individual, good run stopping D tackle. Then we went in the third round with Chris Brazell. All right, and both the picks, Lee Hunter, Chris Brazell, I had on my list of potential picks before, and we ended up picking up both. So Chris Brazell, 6'5", 3 speed, deep speed, has 1,000 yards in college. So just off those first 3 picks, I think what you're looking at is we got some help for D tackle to replace A'Shawn Robinson, but we really want our offense to work. That's what I took from the first early picks. Like, we're all in on Bryce in the offense. All right, we're going to, even with Icky being hurt, we're going to make sure we have someone protecting Bryce's blind side, and we're going to add another weapon to Bryce. Like, we're going to make the offense work one way or another. So that's the way I took the early picks. Now, we did some wheeling and dealing in the 4th and 5th round. In the 4th, we got Will Lee, cornerback. He has a prototypical size that we like from corners. In the 5th round, this was probably my favorite round for the Carolina Panthers. I believe we traded back to the bottom of the 5th and then traded away our 6th to move up in the 5th. So we sort of had an eye on 2 people to pick in the early 5th round. And first was Sam Height, center. All right. And from what I'm reading, extremely technically sound center. All right. Maybe not the prototypical physical, like arm length that you would want, but extremely technically sound. All right. He was rated very high by PFF. And also, I even saw that he doesn't even get any penalties. Like, I think they say he haven't had any penalties since playing, which is unheard of. Which is, hey, we'll welcome that. And then Zachy Wheatley. All right, this was PFF's favorite pick of our draft. Right, safety. Right, he actually was considered before this past season with Penn State, was considered a first or second round prospect. All right, and then this season with them they didn't perform well, so he sort of fell down from that. But and I believe he ran a bad 40. But they say his speed is really good. He's long, rangy, and he can play free safety. All right, he's a covered safety. He can play deep safety, and that's something we've needed on the Panthers for a long time. Someone with the ability to play deep safety and be a free safety. So that's those two picks were my favorite picks. Hands down the whole draft. All right, we needed center. I feel like we haven't nut up and drafted a center since forever, and we needed a safety, and we got both in the 5th round. Both were great value, so that worked out. So after those picks, we didn't have a 6, and then in the 7th round, we went for Jackson Kuwatch. All right, so he's a guy. He was with Miami University Redhawks. Really only played one season. All right, they didn't even list him on PFF or really on really draft sites because he didn't have much experience. And I actually like the pick. Okay, with 7th round, you want to sort of throw a dart out for someone with potential. And I think he has potential at linebacker, all right? He's about 6'4", 6'5", has size, has good speed. From what I saw from his RAS score, his biggest problem is his bench. He need to build up his strength, okay? Now, I didn't look at his arm length, but still, I think his bench is way too low. So if he needs to come in and build up strength, that's no problem. But just sort of like a hidden gem that wasn't really looked at because he didn't have much experience. So I liked it in the 7th round because as I'll get into a little bit later, we really needed a linebacker based off our analytics. All right, analytically, linebackers was the group we really needed to improve, and I think this guy got potential. All right. I actually think he has a chance to start. All right. Now, Vero does not like playing rookies normally. So, he probably will not start. But I like what he can bring with Devin Lloyd versus Trevor Wallace. All right. I like what he can bring with Devin Lloyd in our defense. The potential, I should say. The potential. We don't know how he's going to do in training camp and whatnot, but I like his potential. So, overall, I liked all the picks. Reminded me a lot of last year's draft. Just really liked our picks. I could see the vision with our picks. Just about every pick except 7th round was a value pick. It should be no shock. When you look at our grades, I haven't seen anything below a B. All right, PFF graded us an A+. Just saw a lot of A's, so I think this was a pretty good draft. Now let's go deeper into the draft and let's talk about the strengths and weaknesses of this draft. All right. So you see, like I've had before, linebacker was actually a position that was a weakness for our team that we really needed to prove. They thought PFF thought that linebacker was our biggest weakness on our team. All right, but before we go into weakness, let's go into strengths. All right, so first strength. All right, we got excellent value on all the picks. All right, every pick we had was They were rated higher on PFF's big board than where we picked. All right, so like Monroe Freeling, we picked him at 19. He was 13th on PFF's big board. Okay, so at every pick, we got some value. Every pick. So excellent value. We picked them all at great spots. Next, we had multiple players with actually elite traits. So I actually do like we look at relative athletic score. I think we some players we might focus on it too much, like when we picked like DJ Johnson. But I do like that they look at guys with elite traits. Chris Brazil has elite traits. He's 6'5", has 4.3 speed. It seemed like he has more wide receiver receiving ability and technique when we went that route with Xavier Legette. He doesn't have that weakness against zone coverage that Xavier Legette has. So I like his elite traits. Monroe Freeling, like I said, he scored number 2 for tackles since the RAS was created. So just extremely tall, big, physical, agile tackle. Just a couple, really a lot of good physical traits on players. Lee Hunter, he's just a big dude. And I thought, all those guys got potential to be elite players, not just good players. Even Zachary Wheatley, even though he tested poorly. And Jackson Kawach, all with, potential athletically to be elite. And, we technically filled every position that, every need that we people wanted on our team. We wanted a safety. We wanted a corner. We wanted a linebacker. We wanted a D tackle. Okay. We wanted a wide receiver, another wide receiver. And we wanted another lineman depth. So we each pick has a great chance to stay on the team because we had some type of need of depth, need for depth there. So I really am expecting these picks to provide value to the team, like every pick. So very good. Now let's discuss some of the weaknesses. All right. So first weakness. All right. To say that linebacker was such a big weakness, as like I said, this is using the PFF's analytics. Okay, so based off their analytic metrics or whatnot, linebacker was our weakest position. All right, so we sort of, we signed Devin Lloyd, right, to be a starter, but we didn't really do anything else to address that position, and we didn't address that position until the 7th round. All right. So if you saw my previous video, I actually predicted we would pick up Jacob Rodriguez in maybe the 2nd. Now he ended up going to the Dolphins before he got to our pick, but what I was seeing, I thought we would pick up a middle linebacker in the 2nd or 3rd. Just because of that need, based off the analytics, that need to fill that position with someone, maybe someone with more experience, someone that could come in maybe quicker than Jackson Kawach. So I wonder how that position is going to turn out for this upcoming season, because Devin Lloyd is going to help immensely. All right, his floor is better than anything our middle linebackers have put out, but we still have Trevor Wallace. All right, and Sherrillis, he's well liked. We need to see how if he's able, maybe he's able to progress, but we need to see how he plays. And like I say, Jackson Kawach, there's a lot of question marks at the 2nd middle linebacker spot, and that spot is going to be important because we're running this 3-4, 2-4 big nickel shell, And we're going to need our middle linebackers to be great for that type of scheme to work. All right, because our D tackles are basically just going to be run stopping D tackles. All right, they're just basically going to hold the line. So our linebackers are going to be the group that's moving around, blitzing, in coverage, and like the most active part of our defense. And that's why we pay so much for Jalen Phillips. All right, we need players in those spots to move around and be active. We need talent at that spot. Um, yeah, it's one of those things like, when I look at, we did get Lee Hunter though. It's like, hey, maybe in the third, maybe instead of a wide receiver, maybe you grab a middle linebacker. I don't know who was there, but maybe you look at a middle linebacker there. But that didn't turn out that way. So we'll see. Now another weakness is potentially all these picks can be backups. All right. So like even our first round pick, Monroe Freeland can actually sit behind Lee Walker. All right, we drafted Lee Walker. Signed Lee Walker. Real small deal, but we didn't. He could actually beat out Monroe Freeland. He still, only has like 1 year of starting experience. He's young. He might not. They might not want him to start immediately. They might want him to learn a little bit behind Lee Walker. And I think Dave Canales even mentioned like, maybe just throwing him in for swing tackle and some spots like that. But because he's so athletic, but maybe not, just starting. Okay, Lee Hunter, is notorious. D tackles take time to get the grown man strength to hold it down. So he could be behind, Cam Jackson. He could be behind Bobby Brown. Okay, we got other D tackles. He could actually be behind them. And one thing I want to mention, Lee Hunter, even though he's not mentioned as a pass rusher, he does have some pass rushing ability. All right, he might not be a technician, but he was, I believe, the 6th ranked pass rush win rate out of all D tackles. So he has some ability. But yeah, he could sit behind him. Chris Brazell, man, they might have him as number 4 or 5 wide receiver. Okay, like Xavier Legette can still hold down the number 3 wide receiver spot. So, we still got Jimmy Horn Jr. They like Bryce Thiemann, the wide receiver. Chris Brazell might not get, immediate playing time. And even Zachy Wheatley, that's PFF's favorite pick. Farrell does not like starting rookies. All right, so will he be able to beat out Nick Scott? I don't know. Okay, with Farrell, sometimes you have to sort of like hold his hand to the fire to play a certain player instead of that player, actually beating out the other player. And Nick Scott, he's very Vero's very fond of Nick Scott. All right, so I think when you look at the draft, you want like 2 players at least to come in and either be a starter or a big contributor, right? And with this draft, I don't know who's going to be those 2 players that's going to contribute immediately. All right. So that's looking at that. That I don't think that's what the outcome you sort of want come from this draft. But like I said, we did get excellent depth. We did make excellent value picks. I do think as far as old linemen, the 2 players could be Monroe Freeling and Sam Height. I think both of them could potentially start and then be our starters for the next 5+ years. All right. And, I wanna take some time to talk about like our first two picks, Monroe Freeling. First, with him, compared to Icky. All right. So Icky at very best was a good tackle. All right. Great run blocker, slightly above average pass blocker. All right. Average to, some would say maybe below average, but I'd say average to slightly above average pass blocker. All right. But he was good. All right. And when we drafted him, there was actually mentioning that, hey, he would probably be a better fit at guard. But he was a good tackle. All right. We got Monroe Freeland for the chance to get an elite tackle. All right. And especially after the good tackle gets a serious injury. Now I want you to think back to John Beeson. Now John Beeson was Big Beast was one of my favorite Carolina Panthers. Okay. I thought he was going to be a middle linebacker for the Panthers for the next 10 years. When he's got the chance at middle linebacker. He actually got drafted, ironically, if you go back even further, because Dan Morgan was getting injured. All right, so our GM, Dan Morgan's getting injured. We drafted John Beeson in 2007. That's actually my favorite Madden, 2007. Drafted John Beeson, gets to start at middle linebacker, holds it down until tears his Achilles. All right. Now, John Beeson was a great linebacker, great middle linebacker. But athletically, he was not an elite athlete. All right. He was a good athlete. All right. But he was not Patrick Willis type linebacker. I believe both came in the same draft. When Luke Kuechly was on our draft radar, Luke Kuechly had elite traits. All right? Elite traits. So we did not hesitate to take a chance of getting a player with elite traits. And as you saw, Big Beast never really recovered properly from the Achilles injury. And Luke Kuechly, hey, he's going in the Hall of Fame. All right? He's a Panthers legend. So looking at Monroe Freeling, he can end up being a Panther legend at tackle. All right. So with those elite traits, especially at first round, you want your first round to have those elite Hall of Fame traits. And to me, the four most important positions on the team is left tackle. All right, quarterback, obviously, cornerback, and edge. All right, edge. So I feel like you gotta have a good to great player at all four of those positions. All right, so you gotta have a good quarterback. Okay, you can't have an average quarterback. You got to have at least a good quarterback. You got to have a good left tackle. You got to have a good corner. And you got to have a good edge. Now, with corner, we got J.C. Horn. Edge, we paid this big money for Jalen Phillips. I think the defense will get there. Offense is what we have to wait and see. Bryce, we're waiting for Bryce to turn the corner to become a good quarterback. All right? He still has a lot of doubters. To me, I'm one of his biggest doubters. I think he's sort of, to be honest, my personal opinion, I think Bryce has sort of peaked already. I don't think he's going to be able to get much better than last season. And, and based off analytics and whatnot, I don't think that flows well with Bryce. Bryce is just very cautious and overly cautious and afraid to throw deep. we need me a challenger defense, and I think good defenses are just gonna always beat down a Bryce Young led offense. All right, because he's afraid to make a mistake. But Monroe Freeland, he can offer that elite talent at left tackle. Now Lee Hunter, he can end up becoming a second coming of Derek Brown. All right, he has the size, he has the strength, has the run stopping resume already, similar to Derek Brown. And maybe he can rush the passer, occasionally like Derek Brown does. It's just, this defense is just going to ask him just to focus more on the run defense part. And if he can hustle and gain his strength like Derek Brown, he'll be a great asset. So I do like that pick. I do like Lee Hunter. They were mentioning us meeting with him a lot in the draft process. I think we met him at the combine and did a top 30 visit with him. I think he's going to be a good player. I think the nickname he wanted is the Fridge. I think the Fridge could be real solid for us. Now the thing is, the type of D tackle I would have wanted is more so like someone with good run defense, but maybe more athletic ability to become like a pass rusher. Just sort of like, you think of like Chris Jones. For Panther players, maybe like K'Wan Short. I don't want to use Chris Jenkins because he was more like a nose tackle. But he could rush the patch too. He was just all around beast. But like more so line like K'Wan Short. In the draft, I believe like Peter Woods would fit that mold. Just maybe a D tackle that was a little bit lighter, so that he could, in the 3-4, he moves to the odd front to rush the passer, and he could still stay in when we're going in the big nickel with 2 D tackles. He could still hold it down next to Derek Brown, but instead, like I said, I think what we went with is just 2 big D tackle roadblocks, and maybe there's still belief in Tashawn Wharton to offer that pass rush, but that one I'm gonna keep an eye on for the next 2-3 years, because I'm also keep an eye on like Peter Woods, because I really wanted Peter Woods. Now Peter Woods got drafted by the Steelers in the first round, so we wouldn't have been able to pick him anyway. But it's just one of those like, man, like I said, I play a lot of franchise mode in Madden, and I used to like taking like a D tackle and just I'll draft it like a DN that had like maybe 280, 290 size, and just like putting them at D tackle and just having like that speed and giving them, building up power from that position. And I see it work all the time, in the NFL now. You look at like, the D tackles, you saw the Seahawks defense, how, nasty they were. They have an elite D tackle. You saw like the Patriots. Okay, we wanted Milton Williams. You saw how much he helped their defense. Okay, and there's you even look at like the Eagles. Okay, like their D tackle, like that's something, like I said, they got elite D tackles, and that that really helps the defense. And those tackles, they are able to rush the passer very well. So that's one, like I said, I really like to pick Lee Hunter, but I want to see like how that turns out versus, let's say we somehow was able to get a guy like Peter Woods, like how he would have turned out in our defense and whatnot. But yeah, like I said, really like the picks though. Like I said, excellent value. what let's see what the frat house grade is for this draft. Okay, looking at the strengths and weaknesses, I believe we got an A. Okay, I can't see it lower than A. I think the value in the bottom rounds were just too good. Okay, I really like everything fourth round bottom. I think we just got some extreme value to turn this into an A. Okay, like I said, I really liked our fifth round, Sam Hite and Zachy Wheatley. I think both can start and be great contributors. So, Frat House Podcast, we give this draft an A. All right, so give this an A, and yeah, so we're gonna have rookie camp coming up. At linebacker, if we wanted to pick up somebody like Bobby Wagner for 1 year, we still have that option. But like I said, overall great draft. I'm excited to see how this comes about, and I'm hoping we take camp really serious because we've especially at quarterback. When you look at Bryce, you got Kenny Pickett. I don't really see him as a challenge to Bryce. You got Will Greer. I don't really see him as a challenge. I definitely don't. Well, honestly, I don't see him as a challenge at all. We picked up the undrafted quarterback. Let's see what his name. Taylor. Let's see. Let me look up his name right quick. Haynes King, pardon. He has athletic ability, has a strong arm. I'm excited. I want to see how he looks because he actually has a strong arm compared to the three quarterbacks that is in front of him. So I wonder how he's going to look compared to the other quarterbacks because that's just him having an extremely strong arm is going to turn heads for fans watching. So it's going to be very interesting. But yeah, like I said, A grade, and that's what that's what we're going to go with. So guys, stay tuned. I'll I think my next video I'm gonna talk more specifically about Bryce Young and what the teams need from him for us to take that next step. But everybody stay cool. Listen, I hope you guys have a great week. This is your boy Big Brother A out. And make sure you like and subscribe. Peace.